this revolution is not going away.
This is the Ron Paul Liberty Report with Ron Paul, Daniel McAdams, and Chris Rossini.
We are all ambassadors of the Ron Paul doctrine, and it's so simple. Just tell the truth.
An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army or any government.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Chris Rossini as our co-host. Chris, welcome to the program.
Happy Friday. Great to be with you, Dr. Paul.
Very good, and I understand that we have a message from our supporters at Birch Gold.
Yes, that's true, Dr. Paul. As our Friday viewers know, because we do it every week, we do like to plug our friends at Birch Gold Group because it's a very important issue. Gold has been money for thousands of years. It's still money today. The rich have gold. The governments, the central banks, they hold gold. Just as a backup, because what the paper money system will fail, because it always fails. But why did they do this? And the reason, there's more than one reason, but gold they can't counterfeit. It's very expensive to mine gold, and you mine a little bit at a time. So whereas their digits and their paper money, they can counterfeit. Now, why do they want to counterfeit? Because they want to do every crazy idea under the sun, and they want to pay for it. And under gold, they'd have to come and get our gold. We want to fight this stupid war that we're going to lose. And the people can say, no, we're not giving you the money, period. So they bypass all that now. Now they counterfeit money, and they don't even care what we think. They're going to go fight the war because they could pay for it with the money. And they solve two problems. They create the money, they counterfeit it, and they don't have to even bother with us anymore. And that's it. And we don't pay them directly. We do pay them directly with taxes, but we pay them with the rising prices. We go to the store, all our bills go up. That's because as they counterfeit, they drive the value of the money down. So if you want to protect yourself against their nefarious system, there's always gold. And if you're interested in learning how to do that, how do you buy gold? Where do you buy it? We have our friends at Birch Gold Group that can help you. So you can text Ron to 989898, and they will text you back with free information. You can use the information. I think they'll mail it to you. And you can go from there. You're not obligated to become their customer, but you can at least start to educate yourself, and you have somewhere to turn in case you do want to go further. So once again, text Ron to 989898 to learn more about gold. Back to you, Dr. Paul.
Very good. Today we want to address the subject of our economic adjustments. Periodically throughout our history, there have been major things where the economy really gets adjusted. Like in 1913, when they introduced the bill for income tax and the Federal Reserve, that was major. When they stole the gold in the beginning of the Depression in 1933, and there's been these episodes, but I think we're in the middle of one of those episodes right now. And I remember very clearly because I was watching the television when Nixon came out, 15-minute speech on Sunday night. I was watching, and Nixon had a speech, and this was addressing the subject of the economic crisis that was building because people had rejected the dollar. Our gold was being taken because it was so undermined by just printing too many Federal Reserve notes, and the people were claiming, well, we'd rather have the gold than these Federal Reserve notes. So there is this thing, but there was one thing that Nixon announced that night, and it followed up. He sort of was on the defensive, but he was, in a way, listening to him, I was under the impression, well, he's coming clean. He's sort of letting us know where he's coming from, and that he himself had a philosophic adjustment, because he said he was excusing what he was doing by saying we are all Keynesians now. It was a true statement. He wasn't hiding behind it, but the real truth was it was much worse than him adopting to a Keynesian approach, because it's led to a lot of trouble over the years. So I think that we're in the middle of this right now, and people are looking to blame people for things. And the one word that has cropped up in the polling, and the polling shows that the average person, especially the young people, which is a little bit concerning to me, and that is that they're not supporting the capitalism. But when you think about it, where's this capitalism that they're not supporting? You mean that stuff we get out of Washington? And capitalism, I don't really like the word, but basically it's supposed to mean free markets, a free exchange of goods and services, and minimal interference by the government. And that is what it's supposed to be. But there's an understanding now that's very confusing due to education, and there's many now who think that it's free markets and capitalism that is our problem, and they have to do something. So they want to say that it's this type of capitalism that is our main problem. Of course, what they're talking about is corporatism, and that's what we want to concentrate on today, because corporatism is not free markets, and it's not sound money, any of these things, and that is the misunderstanding that has occurred, because a lot of young people say the numbers are just it's 50-50. It's what we don't like. Capitalism, American type of capitalism, and these are American, but they don't know what they're doing. They can't blame what they're getting and say we don't like capitalism and we don't want to perpetuate this, and they're critical of it. But their perception of what capitalism is what we have is so distorting the truth, because we've had bits and pieces of free market capitalism, and we still do have parts, and that part, really, in spite of all the rules and regulations, debt and interference with what we do, we still prosper to a degree. But I think the point is that we're at a point now where people are starting to think, what are we going to do? A similar point where Nixon had to do something before all the gold was gone. So he says, we're all Keynesians. We got to get in there and manipulate the system. And they've been manipulating the system in a serious way ever since 1971, and it's not going to go away, because it's adapted and expanded the whole notion that deficits don't matter. So where's our national debt? Nearly $40 trillion. So it doesn't work. But and I blame the one thing, though, that we have to address is this assumption, because the description of this is like saying we're all corporatists now. We all believe in crony capitalism, and the corporatist means, basically, in a very general way, the combination of big corporations and government wheeling and dealing to control the whole system. And we have an administration right now that is very cooperative with that, and I see that as our great danger.
Yeah, it's very good, Dr. Paul. And we ourselves don't like this current system. But we're not going to call it capitalism, because there are traces of capitalism and freedom, that we're losing constantly anyway. In order to really, and I wish the young kids can grasp this, maybe a lot do, and maybe some will, you have to know who rules in America. It is not we the people by a long shot. We are ruled by big international corporations, foreign interests. That's getting a lot of attention these days, and rightfully so. And of course, the big mega banks. Those are our rulers, And the fact that we go and pull some lever every 4 years, that's just to pacify us, to make us think that we're involved in this in some way. But that's who rules over us, and they know that they create public anger each time. They just guide that anger to to someone with a different wrapper that just keeps the system in place. We went through it with George W. Bush and his humble foreign policy, and he was a massive warmonger. Obama came in with hope and change. He's going to hope and change us out of these Bush years. They gave him a Nobel Prize, and he went and bombed 8 nations himself. And then from the horrific Biden years, we had Trump. He was the new Thomas Jefferson with America First. There is no America First as far as the eye can see. The guy has gone against everything. So they guide the public anger each time through each of these administrations, and we end up at the same spot. And the next wrapper is Democratic Socialism, as if that's going to, and that is not going to save any. It's going to lead us to the same corporatism. So once we see outside of this matrix, but more people have to see it, a lot more, we can change things. But as of now, there is no hope and change, and democratic socialism is not going to get us anywhere.
In many ways, Nixon was right by saying we're all Keynesians now, because if you look at what's happened since that time, it's become very much of a managed economy. But the problem with this, the evil in it all, is it's based on force and control and a redistribution of wealth on purpose, and it uses the monetary system. And the rich do get richer and the poor get poorer. So this is a really an important issue about understanding, because as long as people are convinced that it's this capitalism that is creating the system we have now, and we have to make sure that people know the difference between, the type of socialism. Democratic socialism doesn't sound too bad. A little socialism, I guess we can live with that, but it's going to be democratic. But I tell you what, that is built on so much misinformation and deliberate attempt to fool the people into accepting more and more government. Don't challenge deficits and do nothing to try to curtail the government. By one of the major reasons for doing all this is running the empire and running these wars that are just undermining our national security. And here we are now negotiating in Congress to combine our national security and integrate it with another country. And it's like giving up, we're not a sovereign nation anymore because we're going to give all our secrets to another country. So it makes no sense. And if you're a young person, you've been educated in all college universities, you can understand why. Well, this is their capitalism, and this is what it's doing. If that's the case, we're going to preach, a lot against that type of system. So that's why I like to use the term free markets rather than capitalism, because capitalism is crony capitalism, and the system ought to be referred to and get people to understand what the meaning of corporatism is. They're corporatists. We're all corporatists now, which means that we endorse the notion that a combination and partnership with big business and government, and all you have to do, I was starting to make a list just recently of the combination of our government now in various ways, but especially the executive branch of government, actually outwardly and openly, becoming partners with big business. And that is not what was intended. That will lead to trouble, and it always expands, and it eventually leads to a time when force has to be used to maintain a little bit of calm in it, because it's not a functioning system. And that's what we're moving to. But I'd like people to realize corporatism is not a good system. It's a lead into something I think is very dangerous.
Yes, Dr. Paul, very good. And when we advocate free markets, it's with the understanding that there is no perfection in this earthly life. Because somebody goes, oh, you want free markets? Well, what about they'll pick some obscure thing? What if that happens? Well, yeah, that's a good point. Everything cannot be covered. People are have a tendency to be greedy, lazy, lie, cheat, steal, and these are internal things from the heart. Nothing that we rearrange in the external world changes that. Okay, so free markets are not a panacea for all of the problems in the world. It's just much better than centralized power, because when there are problems, when people are greedy, lazy, lie, steal, and steal, it happens locally and it doesn't blow up the entire world. Whereas today, the lying, cheating, and stealing have been institutionalized. It's an institutionalized institution of our society. The corporatism is protected by the state. All the bad aspects that come from the heart are protected by the state. And nobody gets punished for anything ever, no matter how bad it is, whether it's COVID or Epstein or wars. Nobody, they feel that they're safe because they know that they are for the time being, that nobody will come after them because they would have to take down the whole system. So free markets are preferable to this. They are not the panacea. They don't get rid of lying, stealing, and cheating, but it will get rid of this. And that, I think, is a worthy goal. Don't you, Dr. Paul?
Yes, absolutely. And you know, they're always looking for somebody to blame, and that's their goal, because they can't blame their dumb ideas, and that their ideas depend on government force and government regulations by the very wealthy who gain and benefits from this, and that markets can do this. But people say, you guys don't like rich people. That's what you're prejudiced because they're so successful and they have money. That isn't the case. We want people to be rich as a consequence of what I call the only part of democracy that I favor, and that is the voting that goes every single day with every dollar spent by picking and choosing what product you're going to buy or sell, and where the profits go and what the people do, and not bailing out anybody or subsidizing somebody else. And that is the type of democracy that you cleanse the system. People say, well, then you let somebody who worked so hard and now they're going to go broke because he didn't have enough customers. Actually, you have to accept that, because why should you subsidize it with money taken from the people who are successful and appeal to the customers? And so you take the money from them so they can't expand and teach people how to have products. No, they don't do this. And the system we have now has created chaos. There's no doubt. For now, especially in the last decade, when we're seeing it all the time in the streets. There's chaos in the streets, and that is something that we have also noticed in elections. That just in this recent past 6 months, we find out that people, socialism, we like socialism because we hate this capitalism that we have, and they're actually voting. I mean, the fact that it really gets to me to think that a group of people, millions of people in I don't know whether it's still the largest city, but in New York City, that we elect somebody that's devoted, to a system of force and violence. That's what socialism is all about. And yet those are signs that some people would like to just deny and ignore. And I always have a temptation to do that. Well, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's just New York. It's New York. But no, I think this is a system of government that is spread by people talking about it, and the educational system that's been around, the chaos that has been created, and the inability and the lack of desire for enough people to get the message out, the difference between real freedom and pseudo-capitalism and, crony capitalism and corporatism. Because if they don't recognize this, they're not, even if the things get worse, if what we'll be doing is laying it at the doorstep of the fascists, because that's what they purposely create, is chaos, because then they think they can usher in the age of hard-nosed socialism. That is our danger that we face.
Very good, Dr. Paul. I'll finish up with my closing thoughts, and it's some thoughts for our friends on the right side of the political spectrum. They are in a tough spot now because Trump is a disaster, for every single day. I wish one day we could say something good, but it's not happening. And on the other hand, we now have the left coming in with their democratic socialism. They will most likely win the midterms, and who knows what horrors we're in for. So what do? Well, the tendency, the knee-jerk, is to try to defend Trump. And honestly, that's not the way to go. There's really nothing to defend. So don't feel like you have to get your red flag out against the blue people. They're both bad. What Trump is doing is bad, and what the Democratic Socialists are proposing is bad. So what do? Go towards principle. What we try to espouse on this show, what Dr. Paul has done, there is plenty material of Dr. Paul, decades worth, that you can latch on to and go by the principle. I hate being ripped off by Trump and by the left. That's the way to go. You don't have to, put on a uniform. This isn't a football game. Both of these teams are ripping us off, both of them. So you don't have to defend Trump to go after democratic socialism. So that would be my word of advice, and that would be a much better tactic than trying to sift through the garbage to see, look at what Trump has done. Just defend principle, and that's the way to go.
Well, we need to get a slogan spread around like they were able to about Keynesianism. We're all Keynesians now. And that means government intervention and lead up to more of the socialism they have. And I think that we have to have one that describes what we believe in. And one thing I would suggest is we're not all corporatists now, and we don't want to be. And there's a better answer. And it isn't too much freedom and too much, free market capitalism that has caused our problems. And we have them, and they're economic, because there's a misunderstanding of how we get into this trouble. People sort of have a pretty good suspicion it must have something to do with too many wars, too much debt, too much borrowing of money, too much printing of money. They have to have a belief that has something to do with it, especially when all our leaders are talking about it. Republicans and Democrats, when they have a chance to stop some of these wars, bring the troops home, quit this nonsense. The two parties come together. You might change one president to another, but basically they change. Do they come and say, well, we need to change the president because we don't believe in the purposely destruction of the currency, because inflation, when you have the reserve currency world, can last forever or for a long time. So we can keep printing money and we don't have to gouge people. We'll just do it, and deficits don't matter. They hardly even talk about them anymore. But the deficit spending is just huge, and it is a limiting factor. And around in the history of economic policy, it's been overexpansion overseas and the destruction of a currency that has finally brought empires down. And so somebody will say, well, what empire are you talking about? I'm talking about the American empire. The United States is an empire. How many countries do we have troops in right now? I was just reading this morning now that, there's a lot of Russian ships surrounding Taiwan. Well, why? We have troops in Taiwan. Why do we need that? Why do we need to have a perpetual war against Iran? And then once we go and murder the leader of Iran, what happens? Millions of people have come out to express their sorrow of why did the Americans murder our president? You say, no, he was a bad guy because they have religious beliefs that aren't the same as ours, that kind of stuff. But when's the last time that there was a story in the paper that the troops have advanced from Iran? They moved into another country and they're taking over, they're expanding it. Well, there was a time when Iran was doing those kind of things, but that was a long time ago. So I think that it's knowledge, understanding, and in seeking the truth and understanding economic policy is the reason we want you now to think very seriously about advising that don't become a corporatist and don't accept the fact that they're corporatists. They're running the show. We want people that believe in liberty, and that is our goal, is to spread that message. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.
Thanks for watching the Ron Paul Liberty Report. Like and subscribe to help spread the message. And until next time, live free.